It's noon, so let's go ahead and get started. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to episode 2 of Trail Talk Tuesdays by Kansas Trails Inc. I'm your host, Brittney Holum, and I'm so glad you're here today for what is truly a special episode. As many of you know, the Flint Hills Trail was officially inducted to the Rails to Trail Conservancy Hall of Fame just last week. We couldn't think of a better reason to celebrate, so today's episode is dedicated to the Flint Hills Trail, its history, its impact, and its exciting future. We'll be hearing from some incredible experts who know this trail inside and out. So a little bit of history about the trail. The Flint Hills Trail project began in 1995, thanks to the Kansas Rails to Trail Conservancy, with a vision of transforming an abandoned Missouri Pacific rail corridor into a multi-use trail. In 2018, it achieved a major milestone when it was officially designated as a Kansas state park. In 2022, it received nearly $25 million in federal funding, something we'll hear more about shortly from Jeff Bender. And most recently, just last Friday, the trail earned its place in the Rails to Trail Conservancy's Hall of Fame, capturing an incredible 80% of the vote nationwide. So today's panel, we're super excited that that Jeff, Michele, and Jeff are able to join us today. Jeff Bender is the regional supervisor for the Kansas Department of Parks and Wildlife. Michele Silsbee is the deputy city manager of the city of Osawatomie, and Jeff Carroll is the owner of Ottawa Bike and Trail. All three are dedicated members of the Kansas Trails Congress and have been deeply involved in shaping, promoting, and protecting this incredible trail. After our panelists share their insights, we'll open it up for a Q&A session so everyone can join in the conversation. All right, let's get started. All right, I'd like to introduce Jeff Bender, who is the regional supervisor for Kansas Department of Parks and Wildlife. Jeff has over 42 years of service to the recreation and parks field and is a well-known trails and historian expert. Jeff oversees the development of the Flint Hills Trail under the RAISE grant, and he also manages other TA grants for the Kansas Department of Parks and Wildlife. All right, did I get that okay, Jeff?
Close enough. All right, so you do want me to start out then?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, yeah, I got a surprise email there a couple weeks ago from the Rail Trail Conservancy that we were nominated for the Hall of Fame. Believe their staff does the nominations, looking at different trails, and they nominated two other trails also, and yay, we won. So it was a lot of time spent on the phone and emails and letting people know so they could vote. So it was great. And the number one thing, I want to thank everybody for voting and voting often, which was legal in this contest. So that was really cool that we got this. Go ahead. So I just wanted to show everybody a slide that I always use whenever I'm talking about the Flint Hills Trail and other things and doing presentations. I try to reiterate, whether it's in Kansas or elsewhere, that Kansas is a trail state. And uh, we got some fresh updated numbers of 4,467 miles of trails and routes and water trails. Uh, 25 current rail trails or rail trail projects in the state. 22 national recreation trails. That's pretty neat for Kansas. And a lot of people don't remember or think of is we also have the 5 national historic trails, and which are designated by the National Park Service. And that doesn't mean they're an actual traversable pathway, but sometimes they're highways, sometimes they are trails, and the Flint Hills Trail actually follows generally the Santa Fe Trail, and we're on the direct alignment of it for a few miles out near Council Grove. Go ahead. So just reconnect if anybody isn't familiar, the trail goes by about 19 different communities. We go through 11 incorporated towns, actually going right through the towns. Uh, you can add in two more that are unincorporated, Delavan and Vassar. 6 counties. We don't get into Dickinson County very far, but Harrington, the entire city of Harrington is in the county of Dickinson, and we go through most of Harrington. Go ahead. Just a map here showing our progress so far in the trail development, but this is not the most updated map. So just west of Ottawa there, hurrah, we can color that little section green now, west of Ottawa, and I'll talk about that. And very soon we can color the section from Vassar going west, all in green. That's underway right now, and it'll be completed probably the next couple months. It's going along real well. So there's the general layout. It shows the where Land and Trail connects in there too. And that's not updated with the sections that they uh have completed and have open, but that's the general layout of the Landon. Go ahead. So here's sort of some numbers for the entire Flint Hills Trail so far since we've been involved. We got involved in the trail project starting really in 2014, and we started doing the first construction to open and redevelop portions of the trail in phases. We started that in 2015. So, and thank goodness, the only way we could do it really was through the TE and TA grants, the old transportation enhancement and the current still transportation alternatives program. That's federal money that comes through KDOT to these sort of projects. State money, it says 6 million there. That's a rounded number. And what that represents is our 20% match that we've spent on the various TE and TA projects over the years. And plus a couple million on the phase we're working on right now. I'll get into that in a minute. So there's a list of a lot of the things we've done with all these projects on the Flint Hills Trail. And the significant number there is 29 bridges improved. And those bridges range from 30 to over 400 feet long, 4 new replacement bridges. Um, and I'll just wing it and say for every bridge, you might as well count eight to 10 probably culverts, pipe culverts, lots of concrete box culverts that need repaired sometimes or replaced. A lot of times we pull them out and put new pipe culverts in. 60 plus road crossings, uh, 7 trailheads, and that's all in addition to surfacing, making sure water drainage is working good, all those sorts of things, signage, etc. Go on. Just a quickie there. This is one of the trailheads. This is the trailhead at Admire, and it's really the most developed trailhead we have so far. But we now have 4 trailheads with the CXT pit toilets and shelter houses. And 3 of those we have drinking fountains at now. And Admire, we have a bike fix-it station installed there also. Eventually, we're gonna soon order kiosks to put up at the trailheads, and eventually I want to start installing some electric service for charging bicycles and etc. I will say Osawatomie at mile 0 is far and ahead because they've already got one of the electric vehicle charging stations installed there, which is great. Okay, let's go ahead. So just to back up a little, the section we recently opened in May, the big dreaded detour that everybody was glad to get rid of. The detour was 3.5 miles of county road to get around and over to get over the BNSF railroad track. The old detour uh, went around basically 2.3 miles of actual trail. And you can see there how the trail in the blue line crosses over the BNSF railroad, and that's where we built our bridge. Everybody kind of only thinks of that one big new bridge as the project. It's like, no, it's 2.5 miles almost of trail. There's 3 other bridges. The one small other bridge was a total replacement, and lots of pipes and a couple of big box culverts in that project too. Go ahead. I'll just run you through that project real quick. If you look at this picture, it's looking pretty much straight east. So looking down the trail, you're looking straight east towards Ottawa, where that white truck is sitting on top of the new ramp. And you see the trail going towards the river, the bridge over the Meridazine, and then into Ottawa. Going to the northeast is the railroad, the double line BNSF track. And then in the lower left, you see the big new ramp going up on the north side for the trail. So we've got the piers. The pier on the north side is poured in this picture, and on the south side, they're forming up the pier on the south side, the pier cap. The bridge abutments are there. And this was about July of last year. And then something big and bad happened, but it didn't really impact us too much. It really didn't impact the construction, thank goodness. Maybe a little bit of delay, but not too bad. Go to the next picture. And this was something I really never thought I'd ever have to deal with as a park manager, but there it was, a 32 car derailment on the BNSF line that was just past or just west of our bridge construction site there. And of course, that was scary the morning I heard about it, because it's like, well, did this have anything to do with our construction site? The answer was no, no, no. Thank goodness. You could actually see in the background of that picture the ramp on the north side of the line for the bridge. That's the north ramp where the bridge would be going over the railroad. 32 train cars of corn, and they had all the train cars and had the railroad back open by Sunday, I believe it was late Sunday, in about 36 hours after the derailment. But the cleanup went on until basically the cleanup and rehab of the ground went on till about November. And most of the ground that the derailment happened on was actually ours on the north side of the train tracks there. Okay, next slide. So that just shows you the pier is completed and it's basically getting ready for the bridge. This is interesting because a lot of folks don't get to see pictures or situations like this on rail trails. If you look at the pier on the left-hand side, just above that, you see a big flat rectangle area, and that's the platform that they built to put the bridge together. And the big crane would be lifting it from that platform and then into position. And there on the other side of the tracks, you see a crane there on the right, and that's the platform for another crane to lift the end section on that side. So there's a lot of preparation involved. Go ahead. And this is a summary of that project. We had the TA grant for about 5.5 million, but it actually, the bridge bid and the whole bid on the whole project came in lower than we expected, which was really great. Uh, and that picture there, you see they're lifting the main middle span of the bridge. The one section is already in place, and then this is the big main section, 110 feet long, lifted all at once. That's put together in the middle with plates and big bolts. And then you see another one of the old bridges there. That's the bridge over Appanoose Creek after it's been completed. Go ahead. This sums up that project. Uh, you see on the left the completed bridge, the train going under it, and then on the right is a picture of the shade pergola we were able to add into the project. We initially designed that circular observation area on the south side, and then we decided we needed a shade structure up there, and we were able to work that into the project before we finished, which was great. Go ahead. So going into the raise grant phases real quick, in 2022, we were awarded the federal raise grant from the U.S. Department of Transportation, and we are very close to having our background stuff. In other words, our administrative paperwork and agreement in place with the feds, and we're hoping to get this moving really very soon. Go ahead. And I'm just going to give you a quick review of what we're going to do in there, but some things that have came up lately. The picture on the left is, I just wanted to throw this in for rail trail folks. It's something we're adding to our bridges, especially where we do concrete decks. Uh, a lot of bridges, the ends of the bridges are usually on the slope, right behind the bridge of abutment, the abutment at the ends. And the sides of the trails are usually always sloping in those situations. And we noticed some of them, we were starting to lose surfacing material up at the top in the corners there. So, uh, we're adding these little concrete wall curbs right parallel to the handrails where it helps hold the material in. And you could make these out of wood, but you'd have to replace them after a few years, but just to help hold the material in tighter up at the end of the bridge so it doesn't wash out or erode out. And then on our next phase, when we start the raise grant project, a couple little new things we came up with. Well, one new thing really, where we have cattle, farms and ranches where have cattle on both sides of the trail that maybe before development, they've been using both sides and going across all the time. We're putting in, for a lot of these guys, we're going to put in cattle crossing gate systems where uh, they're made out of uh, 8 gates actually, two 10-foot gates on for each of the 4 sides of the opening, and we'll funnel the fences in and then we can keep gates closed to have the trail open, and then when they need to move cattle across, they could swing them the other way, close off the trail for a few minutes, move cows across, and then swing them back. And then we're going to actually start intentionally making at least one cow tunnel reinforced concrete box too. That's the picture on the bottom, just showing an overhead. We already have some of these in place that were built by the railroad, but to accommodate at least one of the landowners out west, we're gonna add one they can move cows through there that so the cows can go back and forth all the time. And I just wanted to throw those things in there just as to show you some of the things the lengths we go to work with the landowners to make everything work. We're also adding some pipes under county roads to accommodate fertilizer pumping uh, on the ag fields out in the western areas too. Go ahead. So this shows the raise grant phases with the big raise grant that we got. And we're going to start out west at Harrington and work our way east. The middle section there, the Vassar section, represents the the portion that is underway right now. That's our state money section. That's 100% state funds, and that is the match that we use towards the federal grant. So we're going to start at Harrington and work 3 different phases in a row, working our way back towards Council Grove, and then we'll go back east to Osawatomie and do all that as one project from Osawatomie to Rantoul to do improvements out there. So next. And just to show you guys, because a lot of people aren't familiar with where the trail goes out there, this just shows the trail coming out of Harrington. It goes under 77 highway. I'm working west to east here. It stays north of the highway of Highway 56. And then in the middle there, we cross over and the trail is on the south side of 56 highway into Delavan. Next slide. The next phase is Delavan, basically to Wilsey, and that'll be so the second piece we work on, and the trail all stays south of 56 highway there through this section. This is where we get onto what is actually the old historic Santa Fe Trail alignment. So we're gonna put up some special signing for that, and the National Park Service has partnered with us on that. Next slide. Oh, and we'll have a trailhead in Delavan, 2 trailheads in Harrington, 1 in Delavan, 1 in Wilsey, and another new one in Council Grove. So this is the east of the 3 phases and shows you the 2 old routes of the Santa Fe Trail and how the trail follows right on the alignment of that for several miles west of Council Grove. I just thought it'd be neat to show that. So that's really, I think that's all I have. And I'll take questions later, I guess.
Yes, we'll do questions at the very end if we're good with that. Thanks, Jeff, so much. That was such a great insight to what's going on and all the hard work that you're doing. So thanks again. I'd like to introduce our next speaker, Michele Silsbee. Michele joined the City of Osawatomie's administrative team in 2024 as Deputy City Manager, where she brings a wealth of experience in municipal infrastructure and public administration. In her current role, she oversees the city's hard infrastructure projects, including road rehabilitation, parks and trail improvements, and utility upgrades. She also supervises the city public works and utilities departments, collaborating with the city manager to implement long-term and short-term community development projects. Her current initiative is focused on the development of the bike and pedestrian routes throughout Osawatomie. This project, which is funded by a $1.1 million TA grant, aims to connect city entities, historical sites, all to the Mile Zero trailhead of the Flint Hills Trail, creating a more accessible and interconnected community. All right, Michele?
All right. So when you stand at the Mile Zero trailhead in Osawatomie and look west, you're standing at the very start of the Flint Hills Trail. And that first step that you take, whether you're walking, running, cycling, or on horseback, connects you to over 100 miles of scenic Kansas trail. But one of the things a lot of people don't know is that that trailhead is not part of the state park. It's part of years of local determination. It's the story of our community that decided we weren't going to wait for someone else to bring the trail to us. We were going to build the connection ourselves. That connection was a long time in the making, and public buy-in has been an ongoing challenge. We've had strong champions from the beginning who believed in the trail when it was just an idea, but building community consensus takes time. And it takes moments that make people stop and say, this matters. One of those moments for us was in 2020, when we finally completed the connection. Governor Laura Kelly came out to celebrate with us for the ribbon cutting. And it was a very proud day for everyone who had worked on that trailhead connection in Osawatomie. And that connection didn't just link us to the trail, it tied our community to a much bigger network of possibilities. And that network now starts in our backyard. Since then, our focus has been on turning Mile Zero into a gathering space, not just a waypoint. We've added the walker station kiosks, water spigots, EV charging stations, electric hookups for events, and we have a bicycle repair station. We also have a porta potty station and other amenities for events. We want people to start their journey in Osawatomie, but we also want them to linger, to talk to a neighbor, to grab lunch downtown, and to come back again and again. That's why we went after a transportation alternatives grant that Brittney mentioned. And it was an idea that was born from listening to our residents. They told us that they wanted safe, easy ways to get from their neighborhoods, parks, and historic sites to Mile Zero without needing to use a car. Soon those connections will be a reality. Sidewalks, trails, and corridors will weave the trail into the daily life of our community. And when you create that kind of connectivity, amazing things happen. Since the trailhead has opened, we've hosted many events like Stomp Out Suicide Walks, Bikes, Barbecue, and John Brown bike rides, Ultrapalooza, which is a couple day long ultra marathon, and many more. One of my favorite examples is actually from this past weekend, the Trail to Champions event. Our local women's flag football team walked the Flint Hills Trail starting in Osawatomie all the way to the University of Ottawa. That's 25 miles, and they walked it because the University of Ottawa women's flag football team is the reigning national champs for the last 5 years in a row. As a result of that event, one of our local players earned a scholarship to play for Ottawa. They were told that that kind of grit, determination, and community spirit is hard to find and is worth rewarding. Osawatomie's Mile Zero connection shows that what's possible when a community sees a trail as more than a strip of gravel, but as a backbone for connection, community, and pride. Our story isn't unique in the sense that we had magic resources that no one else has. What we had was persistence, vision, and willingness to say, we're not going to wait for someone else to bring this to us, we're going to make it happen. And once you make that connection, both literally and figuratively, you'll be amazed at what your community does with it.
Michele, thank you so much. For those of you who haven't been to Osawatomie to see the Mile Zero, it's such a fantastic place to start the trail, and they've just really done an amazing job. So thanks so much, Michele. So for our last speaker today, I'd like to introduce Jeff Carroll. Jeff's the owner of Ottawa Bike and Trail, which is an independent bike shop located at the intersection of the Prairie Spirit Trail and the Flint Hills Trail. Whoopsie. Sorry. Jeff, sorry, lost my place. Jeff founded the shop with his wife, Leanne, in 2018 to pursue a passion for cycling and cultivate a community of cyclists while promoting Ottawa as a cycling hub in Kansas. Since its opening, Jeff has expanded the Ottawa Bike and Trail to offer services beyond traditional rental, including trail transportation, twice weekly group rides, and a bike rental service. He recently opened a second location in Ottawa that focuses exclusively on e-bikes. The shop also hosts an annual Moonrise bike ride, which is a bike packing, music, and food festival that's become one of the largest bike packing events in Kansas, which is just right around the corner. So Jeff's going to speak to us about all the amazing things that he's doing up in Ottawa.
All right, thank you, Brittney.
Sure.
Yeah, just go to the first slide. So what I really want to talk about is sort of the economic impact that the Flint Hills Trail and really any trails can have, because we've felt it, we've seen it, and it's sort of ingrained in our entire story of what we've done with our shop in Ottawa. But it really didn't start with trails. I always like to show this picture first, because this is Emporia, and the Unbound gravel race used to be called the Dirty Kansas. That's really what sort of sparked our belief that Kansas was really becoming a cycling tourism destination. And if you're not familiar with that race, I would highly recommend you go there, be there, and feel it. We have people coming from all over the world to Kansas to ride the Flint Hills Trail, or to ride the Flint Hills. And it's become the largest gravel race in the world. People train the entire year to try to win that race. So just seeing the excitement for Kansas, I'm a native of Kansas and I've lived here my entire life, but seeing it through other people's eyes and the excitement around being able to ride your bike through our wonderful state, that's really what got me excited, and thinking about how I could do something in the cycling world that would make a difference and carry that forward. And in the back of my mind, I always had the Flint Hills Trail. I had ridden it many times. But when I decided to open a shop, it became obvious that Ottawa was the place to do it because of the Flint Hills Trail. So Brittney, if you want to go to the next slide. So it started, and what really cinched it for me, well, two things. One is I put a post out on social media just asking or creating an event to ride the Flint Hills Trail from Ottawa to Council Grove. And it got so much interest, so much excitement. And this was back in 2018, even before the Flint Hills Trail became a state park. We had people coming from Oklahoma, from Arkansas, a lot of people from Kansas. This is the initial group, or at least part of it, that rode that day. And seeing the excitement then really is what cinched it for me. That, and also the work that was going on in Ottawa at the time. So Ottawa, being at the intersection of the Flint Hills Trail and the Prairie Spirit Trail, at the time had been working on a Legacy Square project to open up a pavilion, parking lot, and a little park area at the intersection of the two trails. So my wife and I came down, we toured that, saw the drawings of what they were planning to do, and it just seemed like the obvious thing. All those things aligned. So we decided to open our shop. If you go to the next slide, Brittney. When we decided to do that, there was really kind of three main things that we wanted to do. One was we wanted to build an active community of cyclists. There wasn't a bike shop in Ottawa. We knew that there was a lot of cyclists. We knew from experience that there was a lot of interest in the Flint Hills Trail. But we also knew that bike shop businesses are difficult, as is any small business. And in order for us to be successful, we knew that we had to leverage the Flint Hills Trail and the Prairie Spirit Trail as a destination, give people a reason to come to Ottawa, give people a reason to visit our shop and come from around the state and even and beyond to really make a successful small bike shop. We also knew that we had to provide a unique experience and try to give people reasons to come here. So that's what we've tried to do as we built our businesses, try to provide unique experiences, give people a reason to come. When they do come, we find that because of what we have here in Ottawa and all the other things on the trail that Jeff and Michele talked about, all of those things are starting to create excitement, or have continued to create excitement around that. So it's actually been a pretty good, very good partnership or marriage, I guess, with what we saw and envisioned back in 2018 when we started this project. So go to the next slide. I'll just go through a little bit about. Oh, this is a good picture. So this is a picture of a group ride we did right as Legacy Square was being conducted or constructed. When we started our business, it was just a dirt parking lot. And so that project, along with all the other things that are going on, we've seen as we've continued to try to grow our business. So go to the next slide. So one of the things that we try to do and continue to focus on is providing that community, because that without an active community, it's really hard to kind of grow our business. We do 2 group rides each week. So we have a Thursday night ride and a Saturday morning ride. On our Thursday night ride, we partner with a local business to a brewery, Not Lost Brewing Company, for that ride. And then on Saturday, it's more of an open ride. We do different destinations around Franklin County. We have about 40 different routes. So we're not only using the trail, we're using the trail to access other parts of the county. So the trail just sort of acts like a super highway that allows us to ride our bikes out without having to deal with traffic to certain areas of the county, and then discover some of the gravel roads that we have around. So the trail plays an essential role in just about every group ride that we do. We've also honed in, as Michele said, or as Brittney pointed out, this Moonrise Bike Ride event, which we hold every year in September, the weekend after Labor Day. It's sort of our signature event. It's really focused on the trail. We have music and food. It's all included in the price of admission. And we get about 300 people participating in that. Last year was the first year that we sold out. We've continued to grow that the entire time. And we use the entire trail, most of it anyway. We have a group starting in Council Grove on Friday. We have a group starting in Ottawa on Saturday. We meet at Pomona Lake State Park where we camp out, have an evening of music and food, and then we ride back to Ottawa on Sunday. We also on Friday night stay at a place called Base Camp Flint Hills, which is another small business that started in Allen, Kansas, that's also trail focused, and hopefully you're all familiar with that. But we have a Friday night there, which also includes food and music. So we're using the entire trail. We're bringing people from all over, and I think that event sort of, when we started that and started to see it grow, it sort of, I think, shows a little bit about the interest in exploring the trails and some unique things about it. So if you go to the next slide, I just included some of the statistics from that ride. We had about 300 participants, as I said, and many of them were from out of state. So we had people from Missouri, mostly, but also a lot of other states, including a couple people from Hawaii that came out, and they heard about it from friends that they knew that lived nearby. So we had a large group, but that's sort of indicative of what we're seeing. It's hard to put, I don't really have any hard stats on this, unfortunately. I wish we had a better way of tracking this. But we, every single week and during the summer, almost every single day, see people coming from out of state to ride the trails. One trend I've seen this summer is that there's a group of people that are set on riding rail trails in every state in the country. And we've seen so many of those people come by and say, hey, I'm spending a couple days on the Flint Hills Trail and the Prairie Spirit Trail as an effort to kind of see the entire country. So it's the popularity just continues to grow. And a lot of that is due to a lot of the things that and developments that you heard about earlier. It's really helped grow that reputation for the trails. Also, I will say during Unbound Week, we have people from all over the world that stay in Ottawa, and also while they're here, ride the trails and find out about it that way. All right, let's go to the next slide. The other interesting thing that I find fascinating with our event, Moonrise Bike Ride, but also I think it's true of most trail users, it's about a 50-50 breakdown of male and female, which is extremely unusual in the cycling world. Almost any cycling event is much lower and much higher male centered. And I think we found that the trail users, as well as people that participate in our event, it's more of an even mix, which I think is an interesting statistic. The bike industry, I don't think understands that yet, but that's one of the things that I found fascinating. So you go to the next slide. So I think from a business perspective, we see a lot of people that come here and they're here to visit the trails, but what we find is that they're not here just to ride on the trails. They're really here to discover unique experiences. They always come in, where's the most interesting place to stay? Where's the most interesting place to eat? What are the things that I should see around here? So we point them to restaurants that we think are interesting or good or fun, or we send them to the local museums, or we send them to other attractions in the county while they're here. And that's, I think, one of the things that we should all be focused on is how can we leverage those things that are unique, because all of these small towns on the trail have something unique and interesting about them if you know where to look. And if I had more time to talk, I would go through all of the different interesting things in each city along the trail. We've tried to include that in this Flint Hills Trail State Park field guide that we put together. It's on our website. We continue to add things. There are so many interesting things to see. And it's from the beginning of the trail and the incredible things that they've done in Osawatomie. Every small town along the way has something interesting. Council Grove, of course, very historic. So there's so much to see on the trail. It's almost, we get people that call us and they want to understand sort of what to see on the trail. You can't go through it in a few minutes. There's so much. And so, our goal is to continue to help people see that, understand it, and hopefully with the a recent award that we got and being inducted into the Hall of Fame, it'll just continue that. I believe it will. And we're really looking forward to seeing the impact of all of that. So that's, I think, all I had to say. Oh, I do have this last slide. This is our first group ride that we did over the detour just west of Ottawa. You know, we've ridden the detour. Our bike group has ridden the detour thousands of times. And so we were really, really glad to see this new development. And this is the picture we took on the day that it opened. All right. That's all I have.
Thank you so much, Jeff. So let's now go to a question and answer session. So if you guys could, if you've got a question, if you could raise your hand and unmute your, and I'll call on you and unmute yourself. Let's do, seems like the best way to go ahead and do that. So if you have any questions, go ahead and raise your hand and we'll unmute you. For Jeff or Michelle.
I didn't raise my hand, Brittany, but I have a question.
There you go. Go ahead.
And this is to Jeff Carroll. And I noticed the trend when I was in Colorado in July. What are e-bikes doing for the Flint Hills Trail? Because I was on the Rio Grande Trail in July, and 6 years ago, I might see one e-bike for every 20 pedal bikes. That number has completely flipped.
Yeah. Yeah. That's for sure. From a sales perspective, we're selling more e-bikes than regular bikes. And the interesting thing about that for me is that most of the folks that are interested in e-bikes are people that wouldn't be interested in a bike otherwise. But yeah, so I think there's definitely an expanding number of people that are able to enjoy the trails because of e-bikes. You know, our trails, the towns are 10 miles apart, you know, in some cases more. And for the average person to go out there and try to ride from one town to the next and back, that's more than a lot of people can do. And on an e-bike, it's a lot easier. They can do that. So I think it just makes it that much more accessible. And again, the more people that come out here and do that, the more they come back and the more they enjoy the other things that are available here. So I think it's a great thing. And obviously for us, we've opened a little separate, in fact, that's where I'm at today, a separate little location just because of the number of e-bikes. And again, on rentals also, we're renting more e-bikes than regular bikes as well. So it's definitely made a big difference.
And this one's for Jeff Bender. The cow tunnel. Is that a reinforced concrete structure? I mean, is it
Yeah, it would be just like
pre-made?
that.
You just set it in place?
Oh, no, those are normally formed on site. So
Ah,
that's how most reinforced concrete boxes are formed up on site. We'll probably put a concrete bottom in it, but then put dirt over top of that so cows walk on dirt, and then funnel the fences on the right-of-way lines would funnel into there too. Derek brought up something that he misses. He says he misses on the old detour at the railroad bridge, the one dog that would chase everybody. He said it'll never be the same. So I offered to arrange a dog just for him somewhere. So
It
I
looks
think
like
there's more than a couple people that remember the one dog.
I'm going to jump in because I have to unfortunately leave this call in 2 minutes. Elizabeth Berger here, Sunflower Foundation. Thank you so much to this awesome panel, Jeff, and Michele, and just Jeff Bender. I think the cow tunnel, I mean, that to me is something, just think about someone, a city slicker, to ride on your bike and see a cow tunnel. That's a pretty good tourist site. My question is for Michele, if she is still on the call. How have you, in your position of city leadership, seen any change among the non-trail using citizenry of Osawatomie, if any, in terms of, do you know what I mean? Taking some local pride or ownership about the trail, knowing that it's an important feature in their town, just like, the John Brown Museum, even if they don't use it themselves. Has that happened yet?
It's starting. It's been kind of slow. And for people who don't actively use the trail, for things like biking, who enjoy the longer piece that it connects to, it was a much slower process, but we're starting to see a lot more people use sidewalks, go down to the trail, walk up to the elementary school. We have elementary school kids now that go down to the sports complex by taking the trail. Because the elementary school backs up to the trail and the sports complex backs up to the trail. And so we're seeing a lot more people in the community use it as a connection between places that they are and places that they want to be. And we expect that to increase with the TA grant, because that will open up a connection on our levee that brings people all the way into the heart of our community. And then it'll also build sidewalks up to John Brown Park that are a clear connection between our historic sites and the sports complex and the trail itself. So it's been slow, but we are starting to see people just use it, refer to it, and there is pride definitely building in it. We've had a lot of volunteers lately doing things to beautify things around the trail, and just bring more pride to that trailhead.
I have a question for Mr. Bender, if I could. So Jeff, you know this trail inside out and backwards. Where is your favorite bridge? And Jeff Carroll, maybe you have one as well.
Well, I used to say the Rock Creek Bridge is my favorite bridge, and it's still cool. I mean, of course, the BNSF Bridge is sort of dual favorite now because of all the work it took to make that happen. Uh, I the Rock Creek Bridge is really cool still, and I'm going to use that as a way to chat about something real quick. Something a lot of folks don't hear about. This September, just next month, Council Grove is going to be hosting the Santa Fe Trail Association's annual symposium. It hasn't been in Council Grove for a lot of years, and there's all kinds of events going to be going on there for 2 weekends and a whole week in between in September. And they're actually going to use the trail the one day for a Monday bike ride. When is that? That's on the 22nd. They're going to use it, and they're going to actually use it to go out from Council Grove to 200 Road, then right up 200 Road and north of Highway 56 to the historic Rock Creek crossing where the Santa Fe Trail crossed Rock Creek. So that's kind of a neat little side detour. They're going to do other tours around the county and other places from Council Grove. And so it's like, wow, bridges kind of connect into that too. The Rock Creek Bridge is the tallest bridge. It still is. And the longest. The BNSF Bridge by far took the most effort and patience and time and work to get it put in.
I see Derek has voted in favor of the Council Grove Bridge. It's a pretty cool one too, right?
Yeah.
I'll jump in a little bit too. And like I say, when I talk about bridges, on the Flint Hills Trail and stuff specifically, I like to think of those as destinations. And when you design and build single track and trails, like hikers, bikers, they want destinations. So I feel like whenever more goes into those destinations, it gives those people those earmarked places that they want to stop at. And Council Grove one was a great one that Jeff actually took us on a little tour of. So that's one of my favorite bridges at this point. So
I got to weigh in
That'll
on
be
the
getting work done.
I'll weigh in on the BNSF bridge. So that's my favorite bridge, and part of it is because of what it means to Ottawa. You know, we had a detour a mile west of Ottawa, and so many people walk out. They saw the detour. They thought, well, I guess that's the end of the trail. So with that bridge being, it's a perfect distance to jog out to, it's a perfect distance to ride your bike out to. So for us, it's a game changer for Ottawa. I can't say what a big impact that's had on how people perceive the trail in Ottawa.
Not surprisingly, too, on my trail counter numbers, that has moved the #1 trail counter site. I'm sorry, Eastern folks, but it's moved the highest used trailhead from Osawatomie Mile Zero to Ottawa. It which I fully expected. The
Yeah.
the numbers there have now surpassed the folks that start on the far eastern end at Osawatomie. So Osawatomie is going to go back to work, and they're going to undermine that again, probably.
Yeah,
So.
it's a competition. Not to mention the
But
view from up
only
there is
for a
just
time.
So we've got another question from Myron Leanwetter. He's asking what the status is of the Landon Trail intersecting with the Flint Hills Trail. Jeff Bender.
Well, I'll take a stab at that. I think the Kanza Rail Trail Conservancy is focusing more on getting some of the other sections completed first, and then they'll make the connection to the Flint Hills Trail, because there's just north of where the trail does connect to Flint Hills Trail, they basically lost use of a bridge this past year that somehow both ends of the same bridge got burned, and the bridge is now sitting in the creek, and that'll have to be repaired or rebuilt or something to get that bridge over that. I think it's a bridge over a 110-mile creek below where it comes out of Pomona Dam, and that creek will have to be spanned before they really will want to make that connection to the Flint Hills Trail.
Jeff, I
So-
might add, for people who've never been on the Landon Trail, you can ride from the center of Topeka all the way down to the Clinton Wildlife Area over to Shawnee Heights Road. That's all completed and open. And then there's a gap. And if you go down to Overbrook, you can ride all the way down to Michigan Valley. And then there's another gap that Jeff was talking about that goes all the way to the Flint Hills Trail. But they're working. And so I'd say just simply stay tuned.
Mhm.
It
got a
looks like
question
David
for
Simmons has a
Jeffrey.
question.
Yes, I got a question for Mr. Bender. Can
Okay.
you hear me?
Yep, go ahead.
I think we talked about it before, but at the 7 trailheads you talked about are the different towns. Are you looking at putting up kiosks to advertise what kind of amenities they have in the town as far as restaurants, grocery stores and stuff?
Yeah, I'm getting ready to order a whole bunch of kiosks here real soon. So hopefully we can get those put up in this next year also, and start doing some of those things, the advertisements or a little sign system or something to help direct folks to some of those things. We're also just starting work on a brochure finally. Of course, it'll be one of those things, and the way it is, as soon as you print a brochure, it's out of date pretty much, especially for the trail since we're still developing it. And a good resource to go to for that information is Jeff's website for Ottawa Bike and Trail, and he has a user guide to the trail built on his website.
Right. I just wondered if you were going to include that on the kiosk, maybe for people too.
Yeah, we'll put that kind of information on the kiosk once we get some up.
Okay, thank you.
David Simmons, did you have a quick question?
Yes, I actually have two questions. One is the usage of the trail. Is there information or data on whether the trails that used on weekends or weekdays, any more solid on Saturday, Sunday, or during the week?
Yep, I can give you that. I just pulled some of those numbers right before we got on. As far as days of the week, not no surprise there. Saturdays, 26% of the use, Sundays, 14%, Fridays, 12%, Monday, 12%, Thursday, 12%. Tuesdays and Wednesdays are the slowest days. Um, as far as the use of the sites, Ottawa is number one with about 19%. Osawatomie Mile Zero, 18%. Council Grove, 11%. Osawatomie John Brown Road, 10%. Pomona, 10%. Rantoul, 8%. And then the others are all below 10%.
So do you have markers there that you can identify the number of people? Is that how you're able to get those
Roughly.
numbers?
Yeah, I'm still working that out. We put up trail counters last May at about 7 sites, and then I've added several more this spring. So we don't have a complete whole year yet. It's combining part of last year with part of this year, kind of adds to. Then the way the trail counters work is they count once after somebody rides or walks past them. But there's little quirks to using those numbers too. And what do those numbers represent? Roughly right now, for 2025, so far, it looks like about 75,000 visits. That doesn't mean 75,000 separate people, but it means 75,000 visits. Now, some of those are people going out and then walking back, or riding out and riding back. But that'd be like the raw number per year for all the sites. An average daily total of about 200. That's just the average daily, looking at the entire length of the trail. So there's numbers, numbers bounce up and bounce down. There's little anomalies that happen and strange things that happen, and we're still working a lot of those out, and how to look at the data and how to use it, and how to make it halfway correct. I mean, or mostly correct without those weird little anomalies, and figuring out why is this like a crazy high number this day, but well, sometimes it's just explainable. There's something wrong that really didn't, or the way people were walking around right in front of it instead of going down and using the trail, those sort of things. It's a long explanation.
So I'm going to
Yeah,
step in for just a second, guys. We're running really short on time. So we've got a few more slides that we need to get through and then we can come back to a Q&A session if people want to stay on after the 1 o'clock time frame's over. Okay. So I know that there were a few people that had questions, so just hang tight and we can get through some more as soon as we get through these last couple slides. They'll go quick. So I'm going to turn it over real quick to Mike Scanlon. He's the executive director of KTI. He's going to give a quick update on membership. So how do you become a member of Kansas Trail Inc.?
So let's start with this. What we do at Kansas Trail Inc., and really there's 4 areas that we focus on. It's about finding trails. So you'll see a map. It's about building trails. So that's trail in the box. And then other ways that we can help you look for grants or support you in getting grants. Support in terms of supporting communities that are trying to bring trails or economic development, and then promoting trails. The one thing that I would say before I get into sort of like, here's all of our membership levels, Jeff Carroll is one of those important people that every community that has one of these destination trails needs to try to cultivate. The state of Kansas and cities along the trail can create trailheads and we can maintain it, but it's the people like Jeff Carroll and the entrepreneurs along the trail that create those activities, whether it's a bike shop, a coffee shop, a brewery. It's those things that make that trail vital to just not just trail users, but to those communities. So thank you, Jeff Carroll. Back to our membership levels. You can become a member. Here's the membership levels. Next slide. If you join, based on your membership, you will get one of these important and very impressive either t-shirts, shirts, water bottles, or stickers. That's actually a beer glass that I stuck the Kansas Trail stickers on. I'll give you the beer glass for free. I've got 500 in my basement. Next slide. The goal is over time, we're going to build a Kansas Trail Town designation. Anybody familiar with Tree City USA? When you enter a community and you see a Tree City USA sign, and they'll even have the number of years that they've been in Tree City USA. It's to create designations for those communities that have committed to their trails and their trail connections. So we'll create a designation and a membership for those. Planned giving of all kinds. There's people either through their IRA or through their trust that want to give to projects that we work on and to Kansas Trails specifically. And then we'll be looking for sustaining an event sponsorship, and then probably things we haven't even thought of. I think that's all my slides. I saved it for Mike Goodwin.
You're good. All right, Mike.
Yeah, just a 30-second update. As you all have seen, we've got a lot of trails mapped on our mapping on our website. Continue to find a couple here and there that we're adding to, but we are also in search of trail team members. We've recruited folks in every area of the state, except I'm still looking for a volunteer in the southwest part of the state to just act as our eyes and ears out there. Hey, there's a new trail in my backyard. Is it on the map? If it's not, we'll go map it for you. So if anybody knows anyone in southwest areas of the counties of the state, tell them to get in touch with us and we'll sign them up.
All right, thanks, Mike. I'll save my other slides for the next one so we can continue with some of the some more questions and answers. So David, did you have a second part of your question earlier?
Yeah, the second part was, you know, the point to point travel versus out and back travel. Do we have information on, you know, because a lot of times transportation back and forth is difficult. So that's what I was just wondering, how many people are going or want to go point to point, but find issues with, you know, oh, my car is here, but I want to go here, and that's where I'm going to end up at my destination. And maybe Jeff Carroll might have some information on that.
Yeah, I would say 90% are out and back type users. Part of that is there's not a lot of great options unless you have somebody to come pick you up. We do a trail transportation, but it's hard for us to do it just because we're small shop, and it's not enough to keep us busy full time. So we do it when we can, and we get calls maybe once a week for people that want to do that. But most people try to figure out and do an out and back type ride or run or whatever. Yeah. So if there were more opportunities, if someone wanted to, I said this in one of the other discussions, if somebody wanted to start a business to do that, they probably could stay busy. So that's one of the gaps, I would say.
I might have a solution for that.
Derek Buckridge has his, go ahead.
Yeah, as in for Jeff Bender, are you guys using eco counters or TrafX counters?
TrafX.
TrafX, okay, that's what we're using too. I was curious, number wise, are you dividing all of your usage by 2, and understanding that whoever parked here is going to go out and then come back, so you're actually counting that user 2 times? I just know, as you know, we divide everything by 2 just for that.
Yeah, I've been rethinking that here in the last week or two, because we have to turn some numbers in to the feds, and so dividing by 2 is kind of common sense, because they're going out, they're coming back, and I think it's actually probably even higher than 90%, but I could be wrong. The only way to know that is to visually count, and compare against the trail counters. What was that, Jeff?
Yeah, I want to revise my remarks a little bit, because cyclists, a lot, especially our groups, every week we go out on the trail, we take a gravel road and we come back around. So we're not out and back riders. So I guess I was really thinking just pure trail users. If they're just staying on the trail, they're doing out and backs. But there are a lot of people that ride part of the trail and ride other roads. So it's not, maybe 90% is probably the high. Yeah.
They're doing a loop, and a lot of trails and park situations are loops. People are always looping back somehow. But on the linear trail, on the linear trails, long one like Flint Hills Trail, so you can't tell direction from the trail counters. It's just
Not from the
a
traffic.
count going past.
Ecos you can.
Yeah. Right. And Derek knows that on our art style counters. So the best you can do is like really position them out equally, which is what we've done. And I was dividing by 2. I can go into the system and I can flip it both ways, which every time I create a spreadsheet. And at first I thought I'd divide by 2, but I'm thinking maybe not now, because I positioned each trail counter somewhere on a particular side of each trailhead. And so it's only counting the people that are traveling like one direction from that trailhead. And so going the other direction,
how you doing?
there's people going that way too, that it doesn't count.
Hold on, let me.
So I'm gonna undo the divide by 2 to account for those folks too.
Well, and then sometimes you get people showing up forward to a car and they're passing that traffic's counter within a minute, and it's not counting every single one of those people. So those are also
right. The only way to verify is to do the visual counts. And I want to go down on some days where we have events. To me, that's the most sense to count. Well, busy times while you're doing events, to get a multiplication factor, because you can spend hours and hours sitting at a trailhead waiting for a group of people or 1 or 2 or 3 people to come by to verify your counter and what it's saying. It takes too long to do it, and I don't have time to drive 80 miles to go do that for hours on end. So I've got a couple of people helping do those visual counts. So
I had one quick one for Mike Goodwin too about the mapping on Kansas trails. Just kind of going over, what are you all using as your base layer? Is that all trails, or what are you using to upload your data? Just would love to kind of coordinate with you all. Clean up some of the stuff in the Northeast region that just kind of have some concerns.
Yeah, actually, Derek, it's kind of a combination of things, with the exception of the KC Metro, which we have relied heavily on the MARC mapping data over the years, which does need some updating, which I think you've noted. The rest of it has been actual mapping on site physically throughout the rest of the state. So every county we've gone to, physically ridden or walked or run each of those trails. And it's literally the raw data from being on site, which gives us a chance to actually be sure what's there. The trouble with the places like All Trails is where you have user submitted trail. You just don't always know if it's the whole trail or not, or if it's accurate. Not to say that we wouldn't make a mistake ourselves, but the public input data we find is problematic in many cases. So anyway, I think I mentioned in the chat, let's get together shortly and you and I can strategize a little bit. But Mark, Mid-America Resource Council is our source for the KC Metro, because let's face it, you guys have hundreds of miles of trails.
Yeah, and we've been working with Mark because Mark doesn't put a lot of single track on their maps, and they've just started doing that. So we've been working with Mark trying to get those updated. I'm also a regional admin for Trail Forks. So I have to approve any mapping that goes on to Trail Forks in the Kansas City Metro. We hate all trails too. So you're not bothering me too much. I don't like user input data. As land managers, we need to make sure that we're providing a good map for our users.
Exactly.
So I was just curious, and I love to hear from you.
Well, and I have to say too, we appreciate what those kinds of sites do. I mean, they do serve a purpose. let's face it. So a user goes out and maps the ride or the run or whatever, but we're in the business of curating all of that and being sure that they are accurate. And in addition, being sure they're complete. And so when we find a gap or when we find something we need to change, obviously we want to jump right on that and fix it. But I see Kevin Otterman also has a hand up for a while. Maybe we should do that. And then Brittney, you could take us back.
Great, thank you.
Hey, Mike. Actually, my question's for Jeff because we were talking about the sensors, and you mentioned one of the two challenging cases of in and out counts. The other one, and you didn't mention whether you were using bike loops or if you were using like PIR sensors, but I'm curious on that one, what your experience has been for the accuracy when you have groups. So if you have a group of like 5 people, is the system getting 5 or is it getting like 2 out of the 5? Do you have any insights on that?
Not really, other than I know, like just like Trafex folks will tell you themselves, those counters will undercount. And
Yeah,
that's
they
why
do.
those it's just a known thing when you start studying in the trail counters that the passive infrared like that undercount because
Mhm.
it's just a human being going past an infrared beam and it counts 1. If you're walking with your friend or whoever and you're side by side, it's counting as 1. If there's a tight cluster of bicycles going by in a flash or part of a second, it's counting as 1.
Are you
It
using
might be,
PIR for bike or are you using a ground loop for a bike?
no, it's just the infrared.
Okay.
So
The ground
just
loop
the
does much
infrared.
better for groups of bikes, but it doesn't do you any good for your pedestrian counts. Pedestrian counts are really challenging with PIR. So I didn't know what kind of insights you had with that.
Now that we're using what we could afford, which was the Trafex system,
Hmm.
and I like it, and
Yeah, it's a very good
it's
system.
it's pretty durable. I tell you what, they've lasted. I can tell when somebody's messing with one a little bit. I've encountered moisture issues, but it didn't affect them. I encountered unbelievable quantities of ants this summer, but it did
Yeah.
not affect them. Uh, I got the ants eradicated, and there's some little quirks I encountered with batteries in them, but I figured that one out. And you can email me if you have a question on what that is. I'm not going to mention brand names, but certain brands of batteries will or will not work good in them. So,
Well, for the temperature extremes you're dealing with, I assume you're using lithiums because an alkaline does not handle the cold weather. So.
oh no, I've had them out. The ones I had out, they're all alkaline batteries, and I had them out all winter,
Really?
and they're still going strong.
Well,
I've
you're
even
doing
read a
good. I
quote.
had problems with alkalines in both counters and cameras both. And you
Mhm.
did mention kind of spot checking. I was going to ask you a question around that is whether you're doing site surveys to kind of figure out your out and back versus one-way ratios and things like that. I mean, you can do some spot surveys, but depending on what your
Right,
regs allow for, you could also put up trail cameras and compare data between the two, and that way you don't have to be on site all the time.
right.
So
Yeah, that's always possible, but uh, it's not a time-free thing either to sit there and go through
no,
footage. But the
no,
so yeah, the best way I like to just have some folks helping sitting there. And the thing is, you got to do it per hour, a whole hour, and be there on the hour and
yeah,
leave and sit there
yeah, you'll get a
until the
different
next.
ratio on a Saturday than you will on a Monday, for example.
Right.
All right, guys,
Yep.
I'm gonna have to step in and end the session since we've got a few people that have to jump off of here. So I see that there is a question that we didn't get to in the chat, so we'll respond to you, Jamie, via email. So again, I just wanted to thank Jeff and Michele so much for putting on this fantastic Trail Talk Tuesday session. Next session. Let's get back to my slides. Our next session is September 9th. where we will talk about trail accessibility. So look for the invite to be sent out on that. The recording for this session will be posted on our kstrails.org website in the next day or so. We'll get it posted up there. It'll be on our YouTube channel as well. So again, thank you so much to everyone for joining us, and thank you to our amazing panel, and we look forward to seeing you next time. See you on the trail.